Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Quest for the Best Director podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Moore, and joining me is a guy who just can't seem to sell his stolen statue, Caleb Ferguson. Caleb, how did you feel about my alliteration?
It was very good. Alliteration is an underrated technique, so
Is
we
it?
need to try and incorporate it into the podcast as much as
Okay.
possible.
Oh, I can get down with that. Okay, for sure. Well, Caleb, also joining us is a guy who who I'm not sure if he is trying to get a job as a general or if he's trying to get a job as Spartacus. Derek Straczynski. Derek, what's going on?
I've always been a fan of Spartacus, so probably that. I'm more of an idealist.
But Caleb didn't get my joke and it was really awkward and uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's always an awkward situation.
Yeah. Well,
I got it. I laughed internally.
okay, well, it's a podcast, so you're kind of supposed to laugh externally, Caleb.
Now, see, it adds to the ambiance of the podcast if everyone just internally laughs. The audience will know.
We'll just kind of like put like a inner laugh track inside the podcast.
We really
just
did need a
everyone
laugh track
chuckle.
on this podcast. That would be so hilarious.
But just like only at like points like aren't funny whatsoever. Like when it's like me and Derek going back and forth and just like ha 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 every time Derek talks. The only issue is
That's
Derek's the
funny.
editor, so he would just make it every time I talk. So yeah, it's
Mhm.
like but gosh dang it, Derek. Okay.
I have all the
This
power.
is the best Quest for the Best Director podcast, aka the greatest movie director bracket podcast ever, aka just a way that me, Derek, and Caleb can make really edgy comments about war. So
There we go. Get ready.
each week we talk about two movies. This week we got a Battle of the Titans. We have Stanley Kubrick's Paths of Glory versus Federico Fellini's. By the way, I have my accent's on point there. Vetelloni. Not as on point there. It's each of their 6 best movies because they're in our wild card round. The winner of this will move on back into the regular bracket to go up against Orson Welles. So we have Kubrick versus Fellini. Winner plays Welles. I didn't think we'd be getting this kind of heat this early. Did you guys?
No, this is
Definitely
crazy.
not.
But I'm excited to get into it. And now I like to start off by we've had some crazy kind of coincidences in terms of matchups on this show. I think that's fair to say.
Mhm.
What was the one that was like super duper crazy? Do you guys remember?
It was
I think it was the one with the sacrifice, right?
No, I was thinking it was the one where it was like literally two movies that are almost exact same. I forget which ones. Let's see.
Was it the one that was Wild Child and Machete?
No, because that
No,
wouldn't.
That
those
was
weren't against each other.
those weren't against each other. It was.
Oh. I
Oh,
have terrible memory
it was
when it
Knights
comes
of
to this.
Cabiria and Purple Rose, I think. This is like.
Yeah, that was definitely one, yeah. But there's been a couple
Yeah,
that were.
there have been a few really weird ones. I remember. Doesn't Streets of Shame and Cries and Whisper? Maybe not.
No,
Oh,
not really
I mean,
the same at
fine.
all.
Yeah. Well, you can listen to those podcasts and you can decide for yourself. But I think this might be one of the craziest coincidences. And here's why, Derek.
All right, hit us.
So our friend Caleb Ferguson, not to date this podcast / let the world dox Caleb too much, but he just got onto spring break at his school, and he is going back to all of our hometowns of Corpus Christi, Texas. Caleb, you just arrived there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just can't imagine, Derek, how surprised our friend Caleb must have been when 24 hours after getting into Corpus, he watched a movie about Corpus Christi.
Dude, I was thinking the same thing. This is actually really well encapsulates that particular time in people's lives, I think.
Yeah, it really
And not
does.
only that, but it's on the beach.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, this Vetelloni's in Corpus?
No.
No.
Just
But it just might as
very
well be.
Corpus
Is the
feel
point.
to it.
Oh
You know?
yeah. Yeah.
People can't really leave.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of hooligan-y guys. Like Caleb said, it's on a beach. Has to be, one of the craziest coincidences.
Yeah.
That was also a joke. Okay, so you guys are both
All right.
of you have missed the joke. Okay,
It's
We'll
all
just-
right.
This will be the new counter. Now that we've kind of exasperated the whole whose movie will win out Derek or Caleb counter, we're moving on to the who will get the joke Derek or Caleb counter. Does that sound good? But yes.
Yeah, Matthew. Actually, in my notes, I actually wrote down accurate representation of CCD Gen because like I had that same thought.
It is pretty bizarre, but I Vetelloni. It is Federico
So is
Fellini's.
Josh Bosto?
That's exactly what I thought. Yes, I had that exact thought.
I don't know if he's quite Fausto level, but he is okay. No, there's definitely similarities.
the
I'm down
closest-
with it. I'm down with it. Well, we can discuss maybe who the other ones are as we get through it, but this is I Vitelloni. It's Federico Fellini's sixth best film. It takes place in what city is it, guys? Yikes! Yikes! Yikes!
I think it's just supposed to be some random small town in Italy. Like,
Yeah, it's just like insert like kind of smallish to medium sized town of Italy here, and it's about these five bros. The main of which is Fausto, who is married to this woman named Sandra, or he just got married to her because he got her pregnant and he wasn't supposed to. And Sandra is one of his homie Moraldo's sister. So Fausto, he's really not the kind to settle down. So he is constantly going from woman to woman, cheating on Sandra. And then the movie kind of ends with possibly resolution, but also possibly not. We'll get into that later. Meanwhile, the other four guys are all, they all want to get out, but none of them really do. But and so at the very end, Sandra's brother Moraldo leaves on the train. And
yeah,
that's
that's
it's not super narratively driven, you know?
agreed. One thing I wanted to bring up is that you called Fausto the main character, and he is called that in the movie by the kind of narration. But there's sort of this interesting thing going on where like Fausto is the character that most of the narrative and screen time is centered around, but like our protagonist is almost Moraldo
Oh, it's
because
no,
like
our
he's
protagonist is definitely Moraldo.
yeah, but it's interesting because this isn't I don't think it's very commonly done where the main character and the protagonist are kind of two different people, if that makes sense.
I guess maybe like Great Gatsby, but it's almost the opposite, right?
Yeah,
Where
it's it's interesting because like I don't know, you don't really like the focal character, but you like the protagonist.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like we definitely identify more with Moraldo and like he's sort of the good guy in the insert here. But we don't get much screen time of him compared to Fausto, so
Screen
cool
time we do
dynamic
get
I
is like
thought.
super weird and ambiguous, but like in a good
Yeah.
way. But
Mhm.
now I have a bold claim for both of these films, okay?
All right, make your claim.
Federico Fellini and Stanley Kubrick are both great directors,
Mhm.
right? And this is each of their six best movies, as we've established, I think multiple times already. And this really felt like the sixth best movie from two great directors, and that both of them were very clean movies, and like movies where I was super invested into the narrative and stuff, but like emotionally, I wasn't quite there. And I watched it at different times. So I don't think it was like an on the day thing, but I just felt that like these really felt like really good like really good directors making like pretty good movies.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I think both of what they did like worked well and was well done, but didn't maybe like go above and beyond necessarily.
Mhm. Gotta be agree on that. But why is it? Because with Paths of Glory, it kind of makes sense why that's the case. I'll look into it a bit later. But I Vetelloni, you think a movie like this that isn't super narratively driven, you think that it'd be a hard movie to just kind of come down in the middle on, right? Because like I said, it's done really well. I think it's fair to say. And then, but it's not like a super interesting narrative wise. You're either going to really connect with the characters or really not. But I kind of found myself middling on all the characters, but still enjoying it, I guess, because of how it was done. Why do you think, like, I guess it's hard to say because you guys aren't me, but why do you think there's kind of like this lack of connection there?
For me personally, I also had this lack of connection, but it's kind of what we've already talked about. The focal character is pretty much everyone, but who we like.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of sets up like if the focal character is someone you don't like, and like the narrative isn't strong, the idea is like you either hate the person enough that you want to see them fail, or you pity them so much that you want to see them succeed. Or, but the problem is none of that happens.
Yeah, none of them fail. None of them really succeed. The only one that, well, to be fair though,
And then the only one that succeeds is Moraldo, and he has
yes.
so little screen time and is the only person that we like that the fact that he succeeds is incredibly weak.
I think it's kind of this was sort of like what I read online is that this was sort of like the last film of Fellini's like Italian neorealism
Mhm.
stage. So I think like that's kind of that definitely it's not entirely of that genre, but I think it still has enough touches of that feeling like nothing like really happens too dramatic. It's all kind of like well within like the balance of what could happen in reality, and so just like life, nothing like everything's kind of in the middle, right? Like no
Yeah,
characters are
exactly.
particularly incredible, but no characters are particularly awful either. Like even Fausto, who is by no means a sympathetic character, he doesn't come off as like evil or like sinister. He's just kind of like a dumb fuckboy, basically.
Hmm.
And like and likewise, like we don't like necessarily really love any of the characters either. And we don't hate them because everything's just kind of mixed up in gray, which is just like real life. And I think as a result, there's no kind of like grand emotional overture or something like there is in uh Paths of Glory, but on the other hand, like is a lot more realistic. And I think maybe I could connect with it a little bit more just because of that, because it just kind of like fits that like I don't know real life vibe that I feel like you can easily
Kind of
connect
insert
with.
yourself into, yeah.
Yeah.
And I do agree with that. And I do think that like it is nice that the one character that we do like succeeds, and the way they're all trying to succeed, which is to get out of here, right? And
Hmm.
I guess it's almost what makes Fausto tragic. It's like he does want to get out of there so bad, but he literally can't. So I almost wonder if you're
Yeah.
kind of supposed to feel for him in that capacity, but at the same time, like it's really hard to feel for him because it's the reason he can't get out is completely, his own fault.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
well, at least insofar as like he made a mistake. Like he didn't mean to get that girl pregnant, and I think like we're supposed to assume like in some alternate universe where he didn't, he would have like moved to Milan or whatever and got some cool job over there and just kind of lived his like nightlife party
I
boy
you say
lifestyle.
that, but then at the same time,
He's still not a sympathetic character.
well, no, I was gonna say
Oh
at the
yeah.
same time, and he also only wants to go to Milan after finding out that she's pregnant, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I didn't
Like
think about that.
you don't really know if he was always going to go to Milan or if he's kind of just running out to run out. And I think that's why you can kind of argue both ways how tragic of a figure is. But yeah, he's definitely not sympathetic. I mean, and I think maybe the best way to take this is movies to handle it character by character. And
Hmm.
Fausto's arc is basically he gets with Sandra. He seems to be super happy, and Sandra, is like head over heels, like happy beyond all belief with Fausto, right? And I think that actress, who I actually don't know who it is, apparently it is Leonora Ruffo. I think she does a really good job at just being, like I said, extremely sympathetic, and that she's like so lovable. And they go to a movie theater, right? I think that's their first big date. She cheats on him. Fausto gets a job, and he gets fired because he tries to hook up with like honestly a not even that attractive boss's wife. Which I know that shouldn't have too much of an effect on it, but I feel like these womanizers. I felt like he was like really into her personality at that point.
Yeah.
And then does he cheat on her one more time? He does.
Well,
Yeah, he
Well,
cheats on her with like the actress lady
yeah.
or the singer
yeah.
lady.
Well, and then also whether or not he cheats on her more than those times isn't shown, but at the very least,
Sure.
he's shown as being incredibly like a big cheater, basically.
And you have to
So
assume that it probably is happening more than that, right? Because Sandra just seems so like it seems that her attitude really radically changes from cheat to cheat, I guess.
yeah,
To the point where you kind of
Hmm.
have a feeling stuff like this is happening more and more often.
and
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing you said. Like Sandra's like incredibly sympathetic, and it's kind of interesting. The sympathetic characters are not the focal characters. Like Sandra, French. I think his name's Francesco. Fausto's dad, who's just trying to get him a job and like basically straighten him out, but Fausto just like refuses to, and all these other characters that Fausto basically just is awful to.
Wait, no, but no, the dad's wait, Fausto's dad doesn't try to get him a job.
Yeah, his dad gets him a job.
No,
What
no,
Fausto does, or Fausto's
it's
dad,
her dad. Her dad gets him a job.
yeah, no, Fausto's dad is like yo, you need to get a job. I'll talk to my friend, and his friend is Sandra's dad, and Sandra's dad's like, yo, I'll get you with my friend, and he's like, okay, cool.
Oh, okay. I guess so. Yeah. I just think I guess ultimately Sandra's dad's the one that gets the job. Yeah, you're right. That's true. Um, but yeah, I mean, I do agree. But like then at the same time, I think if we're kind of ranking characters in terms of how much we're given of them, the number 2 and number 3 are Meraldo and Sandra, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, but it sucks because Sandra doesn't just she loses, or depending on your interpretation, does Sandra lose or win in the end? This is, I guess, a good starter question.
But it's not a lose or a win because like that's kind of what I was saying earlier. It's kind of in the middle. Like things aren't that bad, but they're not great either. Like he's still probably gonna cheat again. He's still not a very faithful husband. But does he love her? Yeah, and things are probably gonna be okay.
Well,
I think that's kind of how I read it anyway.
Do you think he's gonna cheat again?
Certainly, yeah, he's shown no indication that he would change at all. But I
yeah.
do think that he's also not gonna like run away and leave her behind. I think like it's kind of just like one of those like middle things. Like he's not gonna be a terrible husband. He's not gonna be a good one either. It's just kind of in the middle. I don't know. Did you guys read it very differently than that?
Not like very differently, but this stuff does seem to be the most he cares about Sandra is when he's like, all disheveled and looking for her, and he does reject the one woman, right?
Yeah, I
I
think
do
that's the
agree that
point.
like
Like,
realistically he would probably cheat on her again, but like I think you can. I don't think it's out of the question that our interpretation is supposed to be that he's repented.
I guess the way I kind of think about it is that like once the moment of crisis is over and things have settled down, he's probably gonna get bored and start flirting with other girls again. But then like the point is that whenever shit really hits the fan, he's gonna step up and do what he needs to do and kind of show that he
Mhm.
cares at least to some degree. Like he's not gonna abandon her like when she runs away. Like he's not that bad of a
But
guy.
even then, that's different than how he was at the beginning of the movie, where he, has no or even far into the movie where he has no resolve to get a job or anything, right? Which is really important. That is when shit hits the fan, right? Losing your job, that's shit hitting the fan, and he had no sort of resolve to kind of change that situation.
That's true.
But yeah, I do agree that there's a certain frustration that we don't really see anything like any super dynamic changes in any of our characters, right?
Yeah, but I think it's okay. Like that's like what the movie's trying to do. So
Yeah, exactly. I'm just thinking
because like
with
when like because
frustration,
in real life
not
you very
frustration with.
rarely see any big dynamic changes. Like not that often in real life do people have like big eureka moments and all of a sudden completely change their personality and their habits. Like things happen. Yeah, maybe they do change a little bit, but it happens very subtly and gradually over time.
I do like that take. Derek, you seem like you have something to say about this movie. How are you feeling?
Pretty much that. Sure, that might be how it is in real life, but that's not very compelling for a movie that we had to sit through an hour and 40 minutes through. Like
But
that,
see, things
nothing
I
occurs.
found. Did you not find like the narrative of the film like as compelling enough, or 'cause I did find the characters compelling? I
Not
was really
really.
invested in what's gonna happen.
My problem is that I've already said this kind of, but ultimately for me, what happens is that Murado is like the pretty much the only interesting character for me because he has this weird dynamic with Fausto where he kind of has to support him because he's like a good guy and he just wants his friend to like succeed, but Fausto's such an also awful person that the only way Fausto wants to succeed is like being an awful person. So
Well,
it's
yeah, and because like he's being an awful person to Moraldo's
yeah.
sister.
So that's what made Meraldo compelling. But then the problem is that he has so little screen time that most of the movie I had
Okay,
nothing to
you're
pull
saying
me
so
through.
little. He has a good bit. I mean,
Yeah, he has that scene at the beginning where he's like meandering around and like trying to help his sister, but that's like 5 minutes at most. And then we mostly see like other characters doing stuff. And then
he's always in these scenes. He's always in these
he's
ensembles.
always in the scenes, but he's not doing anything. The problem is that like he has like 3 scenes where he's actually doing something, and that's like when he's talking to the kid the 2 times, and then like when he's helping Fausto. But that's even then he's like passive and like Fausto's like, "Yo, let's go steal the statue."
Yeah, but I do think he's a compelling character in those, right? Like when they're showing the statue,
Yeah, my
the
problem
way
is isn't
Fellini
that he.
directs it is that you are drawn to um Moraldo.
Yeah, I'm saying I am drawn to Murado, but my problem is that he has so little screen time that I'm left basically like in limbo, waiting for him to appear and like do something to keep me invested.
But isn't that how he is as a human being? Like, I think the point is we're kind of okay. So I'm going to ask a question to clarify, and then I'm going to continue making this point.
All right,
Who is our narrator of the film?
Murado.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, you guys read this way more directly than I did, because the narrator never says like I, right? He always just refers to everyone in third person, including Murado. He definitely refers to Murado in third person.
Yeah, I think this is like a Murado after he's moved to Rome or whatever he goes to. Looking back
Okay,
on this,
so
is how
I
I
guess
imagine it.
I took it differently.
Hmm.
I feel like we're just the audience member ourselves is like slash the narrator is like a sixth kind of like almost unseen member.
I mean, it's
That's how I took
Murado's
this
voice
whole
though,
thing.
so I just assumed it was Murado. Like looking back,
Yeah, but then why refer to himself in the third person?
because I don't know. When I'm looking back on things in the past, I kind of look at it more from a third person view than a first person view.
Hmm.
I guess how I took it is that we're just another character, in that Morodo, like he is in the group. If we're another member of the group, he's just like not that scene. You know, he doesn't make a big noise of himself, and yeah. So in these ensemble scenes, we're not going to see much of him because he's just not really there much. Like Caleb said, if it's like it's Italian realism, right? It's supposed to be like as real as possible. Realistically, Morodo won't be the. There's no reason to show like close-ups of Morodo while everyone else is talking, if he's not the point of the scene, or if he's
Yeah.
not. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's my
like
problem is that
do
the
that.
point of the scene is these other characters that aren't compelling. Except for
Wait, I think almost everyone in this movie is
Yeah, I
compelling to me.
see. I feel
I
like they
think
are
it's
compelling.
actually
I think like even Fausto is super compelling to me. He's just
yeah.
unlikable.
Yeah. I think
except for
like the
he's
one
just
thing
the
that I would have
basic.
liked more out of this movie is if like they had kind of backed up off of the Fausto narrative just a little bit and gave more screen time to like these narratives of the other characters. Because like for example, that kind of like side plot of like Leopoldo or whatever and like trying to get his play made and like getting to talk to his like his star or whatever was
Mhm.
like that's really cool. I wish we could have seen more stuff like that, but for like the other characters. I mean, we did see some, but I think like maybe a little bit more of that would have been cool.
I'm glad you think that storyline was cool, Caleb. That's the whole,
Yeah.
Me Too of 50 years ago was
Yeah.
Yeah, I
was
mean,
really
like,
depressing.
oh yeah, it was certainly depressing, but it
Yeah,
was
it
interesting,
was
like to
compelling.
see like the lives of these other hooligans, these other Vetelloni.
I really like that scene though, right?
Hmm. Yeah, it's good.
Um,
It was
it's
compelling.
so because where do you guys think that was going? The whole Leopoldo actor scene.
I originally
Sergio's
thought
name
that
of the actor. Yeah,
like Sergio was like gonna get tired of him and like
that's
be tired
exactly
of
what I
this like
thought. Yeah.
random fan just like blabbing his ear off. And you kind of have this like cynicism that like, oh, he doesn't actually like his work, he's just trying to be polite. And then that ends up kind of being true, but just in a roundabout way where he's not necessarily interested in his work, he's just interested in him because he's like basically like a creepy old man.
Yeah, that's what I think is so good, right? You think he's just like super annoyed by him, but like, and then when he goes out, you think, oh, he's trying to leave, and like Leopoldo's not getting it, right? And then nope,
Yeah.
Leopoldo isn't getting it, but Sergio definitely wants him to follow.
Yeah, or it's like for me, it kind of took me like down and then up and down again, where it was like, oh, this is depressing. He's just talking his ear off at the party. He's not interested, and then like they go outside and then he definitely seems like really interested, so you kind of get hopeful like, oh man, this guy like he's offering him a job potentially, like he actually like really likes his work, like this is actually going to work out, this is really cool. And then it kind of goes back down again where it's like, oh wait, he's just being a creepy old dude, and like we were right to be cynical at the beginning, it was just for the wrong reason.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's so brilliantly done by Fellini, where we have this scene of like everyone's coupling up, right?
Hmm.
Where like so there's initial reading of the play. I'm trying to find it. But there's initial reading of the play, and then everyone kind of leaves to a different table except for Leopoldo and Sergio, who are still at the same table. And you think like, okay, so it's like everyone and them, but then you kind of see everyone coupling up, and you're like, okay, so Leopoldo's couple is Sergio. And it turns out quite literally his couple is Sergio.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny. It's like a really good like little, I guess, a directorial joke by Fellini.
But yeah, so I think there was kind of another side plot with Ricardo, right? I remember he got like really drunk for some reason. They had like walk him home, and so I don't know, so stuff like that I found like really like I wish there was more of that, I guess, because it kind of.
Alberto is the one they have to walk home.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's the one with the sister and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what happened. I didn't really get the point of Ricardo, to be honest. He was kind
That's
of
my
just like
problem is that they don't really have a point. It's like, for me, I said they're uncompelling, most of them, except for Meraldo, because three things make, for me, a compelling character is that they're doing something interesting, or I don't like them, or I like them. And Fausto, I don't dislike enough to actually care about. And the
I
others,
dislike Fausto. Okay, so this is where we're continue.
Fausto is just a dumb cheater, and I pretty much can tell what he's going to do through the entire movie. Very
But he's
predictive.
cheating on like the nicest girl in the movie. That's why I dislike him. Is because
Yeah,
like
I found Sandra interesting, and I wanted to see more of her. But I did not find Fausto interesting because I could predict exactly what he was going to do the entire movie. Leopoldo, the writer, I thought was kind of cool because he had that one scene where he talked about wanting to like basically dress and like go to Africa like Hemingway did on his wedding. I thought that was kind of cool, but then they went like nowhere with him for like ever, so I kind of like just dropped
Wait,
interest.
he said the Hemingway thing. I think that was
Yeah,
someone else.
he was the dramatist, so that's what was funny. I like that detail because he's like the writer, and he wants to emulate this great writer that
yeah,
he
everyone wants to be
looks.
Hemingway.
Yeah, so I thought that was a fun detail, but then they didn't go anywhere with that for like an hour, so I just kind of lost interest. And then like Sergio, he had like the opera at the beginning, which
Wait, no, wait, Sergio is the
stage actor.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And then he did that, and I was like, okay, that's cool. But then they dropped him for an hour, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm done with that. Then it was just Fausto for basically an hour, and I've already said
No, we have a lot of Alberto in the movie.
I was about to get to that.
Okay, sure.
And then Alberto, he's set up from the beginning as being like maybe not as bad a person as Fausto, but he basically harasses like women at the beginning, and then it's like all of a sudden he's like upset that his sister's going off with a married man. It's like, wait, I don't really care that your sister's going off with a married man, dude. I don't care about you.
Wait, when does he harass women? Do you mean like the one girl who they're all kind of messing with?
At the beginning, he like towards the beginning, he's like in the street or whatever, and he just sees a woman and goes up and starts harassing her. It's like, hey, you want to go back with me? And whatnot.
I feel like it's just kind of like goofy though. I feel like
Yeah, they're
it's
just
not
like lads. They're just like hitting on girls.
Yeah.
And then at the party or whatever, he's just being annoying. So I just kind of, I don't know. I didn't dislike him enough to care, but obviously I just didn't like him. And he just seemed, his storyline with his sister was kind of, obviously, because Caleb forgot about it, was just boring.
No, okay, yes, man, you guys are having a different twist in the sister storyline. I really like that storyline. I thought
Yeah, I thought it was
like
good.
the whole thing was interesting because it's all about like
Caleb, you forgot about it. You can't say it was interesting.
Well, now that I remember what it was, I thought it was good.
I think like it's all about like gender dynamics, right? Where Alberto is a character who throughout basically our whole movie, it's like he seems to having some sort of like gender clash, right? Where he enjoys dressing up as a woman
Mm-hmm.
and all this, and his sister's actually the one that provides for them, right? Or like his sister and the mother do. So he's actually like typical woman in the family, which I think is like also super important in this movie. That's all about once again gender dynamics, but between Fausto and Sandra, right? But this is like his gender dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the reverse where he is he's like he's like I guess like the typical woman role, I guess like for lack of a better term, in the family. Where he's the one who needs to be supported. So then what happens is this great scene where he's like super drunk, having the character to his house, and he's just like completely helpless as a sister does like the typical man thing, and like and runs off, and it's just this great gender bend where like the man is now no longer being supported by the woman, which is like, it's
That's
kind of
actually pretty
bizarre choice.
clever. I didn't catch
As
that.
he's dressed up as a girl, right?
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, I didn't catch that, but that's really good. That's pretty cool.
All right, I'll change my opinion on the about Alberto storyline.
I think it's good. That's a good
But-
storyline.
All
There's
right,
a lot of-
then the problem is that it's kind of interweaved in between multiple storylines that I do not, like I said,
Sure, and it
just
kind of
don't-
drops off halfway.
and it
right?
drops off halfway. So
That's
it's,
my big issue. With it.
and then it's like, so my storyline or like timeline is like 10-15 minutes of being interested in the movie, and then Fausto suddenly is like the main focal character for like, I would say at least 40 minutes, and then I lose interest in pretty much everyone's storyline because they've lost all momentum.
So
I mean,
you-
I think you guys are kind of reading like the alternate like stories in like kind of the wrong way, because
I
they're not
agree.
meant to be like storylines that are like continuous that like weave throughout the whole movie alongside. They're like momentary diversions from the main storyline that you kind of go off on this little side path and then you come back to the main thing and you don't worry about
then
that side path
the
again.
main storyline is Fausto, and I've said I don't enjoy Fausto.
Yeah, I mean that's fine, but I don't think it's like a fault
I
that we
think
don't
the whole
ever like
point
hear
is,
about
like-
these type of storylines again. I think because the point is that they're just like little sideshows or something.
Yeah, making the sideshow the interesting parts and the main storyline a predictable storyline of this dude
Okay, so-
cheating and obviously going to cheat is
You keep saying it's predictable. Why is it?
because at the
'Cause you
beginning
know-
we see him like at the very beginning he's set up as a cheater. He's like talking to one girl and she's like, what about Sandra? And he's like, who's Sandra? It's like, oh, you already forgot about her, and then you immediately cut to Sandra winning the Miss Mermaid. So obviously he knows who Sandra is, and especially because it's her Murado's sister.
Well, they're not a thing at that point. They're not like dating. So it's not like a cheater.
Yeah, except for 2 minutes later, it's found out that Sandra is pregnant.
Sure.
So obviously while he impregnated one girl, he's been going around to other girls.
Sure, but that doesn't make him a cheater.
That makes him a cheater. If you get a
There are
girl,
things about a cheater, but like, I mean, he just sleeps around. I don't think that's like, necessarily like cheating.
that's
No-
cheating. That's a literal definition of cheating.
Well, no,
No,
because we
that-
don't. No, that's not true at all. Because we don't know if like Sandra and him were like ever like in a.
In fact, I think we can. It's like very, very reasonable to believe that they weren't a thing, or Sandra wouldn't have been so upset about like.
At the very least, he might be
Being
not a
pregnant.
cheater, but at the very least, he's very
Sure, he's
sexual and wants to
Yeah.
bang a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
women. And
Well yeah.
and that's a characteristic common to cheaters.
Sure, but like you want to believe that he's improved. Like when they go to is it Rome, right?
Oh, I
They go to
never.
Rome, and he seems so happy.
Yeah, there's no way he improved. And at the very least, shortly after in the theater, we proved that he is definitely a cheater.
Hmm.
And cheaters are
Also-
going to cheat, and the storyline is pretty much just basic cheater stuff. He cheats on a woman, his wife gets mad, and she has like a breakdown, and then he has a coming to Jesus moment, and tries to not exact literal coming to Jesus, but metaphorical one, and goes after her, chasing her, trying to win her back, and then he gets in trouble with some father figure or figure in general, and he maybe changes his ways.
I mean, I agree that like a lot of like what his character does is predictable, but I don't think the story itself is predictable. Like interesting things still happen.
Mm,
Like the whole like theft of the statue, that's an interesting storyline. I thought the whole like first person beating of Fausto was like really funny and also satisfying to like watch him like finally get his comeuppance as the dad just like whips the shit out of him with a belt like
yeah, I agree on that
in
point.
first person, and like you see the hand like reach over from the side of the camera and like tear the chair that
Yeah,
he's using to defend
that
himself
was
away.
honestly
And then
one of
the
my
whip
favorite
comes
scenes.
in and just
Yeah, that was a great scene. But it's just that's at the end. So I spent like an hour with this dude I just am basically ambivalent to. And he's like the focal character. And
yeah, but there's like to me at least there's enough there, enough interesting storylines that it kind of was able to carry this more mundane one through. Because I think like it's intentional that this story, this like Fausto, like who he is and stuff, like it's supposed to be mundane. Like it's supposed to be just like the same old stuff that happens in a small town with your douchebaggy group of friends. Because remember, we're actually Moraldo, right? So this is sort of like he's just your same old douchebag friend that you kind of have to stick up for, even though he's kind of a loser. And then, so that's supposed to be mundane, but then enough interesting stuff happens in between to like carry the movie, like with all these like little side plots, and then also like just funny, interesting stuff that's happening with the Fausto storyline. Like,
My problem is that setting up a movie that way is just going to it doesn't work in my opinion for me because as I said, I just I guess we just disagree in that I don't think these side plots are enough to carry the entirety of this movie. Basically, if perhaps the side plots had been more than just like side plots, then I would agree. If perhaps
yeah.
like there was a better proportion.
I also think maybe part of the reason why he does this thing in sort of like a mundane way is that he wants the story to be like relatable primarily. Like I think his goal here was like basically tell a story about like this very iconic time in a lot of people's lives, particularly like young men's lives, and like make a story like, oh yeah, I remember when I was a young man running around town with all my friends and all that stuff. So I think like maybe that's one reason why it was a little bit like nothing like crazy happens narratively is because it's supposed to be at least more or less like relatable, like to where you could insert yourself or at least kind of remember the similar times.
I mean, that's a good idea in theory, but my problem is that doesn't make for a very compelling movie that I want to sit an hour and 40 minutes through.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I suppose that's fair.
I can read about it in like 10 minutes, and I'd be like, "That was cool," but hour 40 minutes, that's not.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure if I agree. But anyhow, there's a lot of like really cool scenes though, and like really like funny gags that I liked. For example, the part where they're at that party and you for some reason you see like all of the guys are like trying to get their girlfriends to look up at the rafters, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like what's going on with that? And then like we
Big,
cut to some other stuff, and then later on we see them like
yeah.
like going up to the rafter, and then like all of a sudden like all these bros are like there with the girl like up in the rafters,
Mm-hmm.
and you're sort of like are implicitly shown their like basically bagging a girl strategy.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's it's kind of like everyone goes to the bowl kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like see that's what I love about this. Is like it sets up these things that are interesting but yet generic enough that you can always relate them to something in your own life, which I thought was really cool.
But also, I feel like you guys are like doing a bit of a disservice to like this actual main storyline. I feel like the compelling parts, you can. I feel like you're completely missing the compelling part, which is like, which isn't will Fausto cheat or not, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
we know that he'll cheat. Um, the question is, what's the result going to be, right? And they don't spend that much time on him in any of these acts, right? Him, with the one stranger lady, that's probably one we spend the most time on, and that's also the one we're the most compelled if he's gonna cheat 'cause it's the first one, right? But then after that, with the woman at the work, like we get all of we get what 20 seconds to interact with the party, and then 20 seconds of them at the shop, and then 20 seconds of them, once the husband's gone or whatever, right? So we get like a minute total.
Sure,
And
like
then most of it's the ramifications afterwards, right?
the actual cheating is like short, but the problem is that like even the parts like in between that's like not cheating, like Fausto in general is boring. Is my point.
Sure, but once again, it doesn't. I don't think that matters
He,
because it's all about like. First, I don't think he's that boring. I think he's actually like a pretty compelling, charismatic guy, which is why you think he's gonna always get away with it. But the thing is, half the time he doesn't, right? Where like with the boss, right? He sets it up so well where you really think that he's gonna get away with it again. Where the boss is like, "Oh, Fausto, come in," and he's like, "You're fired." Kind of the
mhm.
nicest, mean way possible. And he's like, think of a reason, but you're fired. It's like, oh, you got me. And then the third time is obviously with the one lady, and then at that point, it's when Sandra runs out. So like, I think it's the
Yeah,
ramifications that are interesting, not
exactly.
the
I think
cheating.
that's exactly what I was trying to get at before. Like, yeah, like the storyline of like a dude like habitually cheating on his wife, like that's not interesting in and of itself, but enough interesting stuff happens. Like, yeah, it's not that interesting that he chooses to cheat on his boss's wife, but it's interesting that like afterwards he ropes his buddy into like going to steal the statue, and they cart it around town trying to sell it to various religious people before ending up like just leaving it with this guy who sticks it in the sand. Like that part.
And it's it's even more compelling because like or I should like use like names, not just he's. Fausto gets Meraldo to convince Fausto to steal a statue, right? Because Merle's one was like, "You deserve your pay." He's like, "I do deserve my pay. Let's go steal a statue." And Merle's like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's
exactly.
whole like aspect is funny. That's kind of part of Fausto where Fausto is so delusional because he's a delusional character, right? We can all agree
Yeah,
on that. Like between the crying and like I said, like the stealing, he's delusional. I think that's what's compelling about him. He's almost like a what's the name? Is it Johnny Boy in Mean Streets? Which I guess we'll probably be watching, this round. Am I correct on that? I think we're watching it this round, so won't be spoiling that too hard. But he's like one of these characters who he's an asshole. He's an asshole, but like just the levels will go to kind of trick himself into things is what's interesting, I feel.
yeah.
Um,
How old did you
but
guys
yeah,
think these guys were when you were watching the movie before it kind of gets revealed?
mid
Mid
20s.
20s.
Yeah, I kind of thought they were like early 20s. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden the guy is like, I'm not 5, I'm 30. And then I'm like, holy shit, dude, you're 30? You gotta get your life together, Jesus.
Yeah, the 30 was like that was definitely shocking. I do love you mentioned him before, but what's the name of the character who ends up hiding the body? He's such like a bizarre addendum or hiding the statue of the body.
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember his name, but yeah, he was definitely an interesting
They
character.
talk about him like they talk about him throughout the entire movie. It was like, let's go see this guy fish. He's like, oh, okay, okay.
I think it is some homeless guy they bang
Like,
around with.
he's so bizarre. And like they kind of create this like little world, and I think the idea is the world they're in, they're kind of like throwing us in, right? Like we could have 20 movies about these guys,
I
Exactly.
would hope
Yep.
It's
not.
just the parts they choose to show us. But we could. I mean, they've kind of given us a world to work around, which I like. Yes. Um,
I think
but
I don't know.
something we haven't talked about, which is like,
I
I
would
guess
like to
what we
say one thing real quick in regards to what he said. Like you said, like the compelling parts are like him like giving away the statue and stuff like that. For me, those are cool, but there's not like strong enough to make up for like the actual. I'm gonna say bad, but they're just like neutral parts.
I don't know. I feel like it's like any movie where the bad guy's the villain or the main character's the villain, right? Where you're like, is the villain gonna get away with it? And it's like, but this one's really cool because sometimes he does and sometimes he doesn't, or sometimes he does to some degree, where he's still able to get Sandra to think to like believe that he didn't try to make a move on the wife, but he isn't able to sell the statue because everyone knows it's stolen, right? So I think that's why I find compelling. It's like, will the bad guy win? It's kind of the opposite of the usual.
True.
But we haven't talked about like what I think is like by far the best part of the movie, which is how it's shot. It's so beautifully shot.
Yep. That's what I was just gonna say.
Like starting with the first scene, or I guess not the first scene, like I guess the second half of the first scene, or like the after party, where it's just like he does parties so well, where you can like always see what's happening, but it still feels like all this commotion,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
that
like you see
it
like
like
all the
starts
different
raining and it kind of
faces.
just breaks into
hmm
chaos.
You see all the faces like in Sandra's face, get those POV shots. I think it's really good.
Mm-hmm. I love the shot where the Leopoldo is like talking to the servant girl, and it's like between their two windows, but it's shot like where the camera's kind of like looking into the corner between their two windows, and so like in top left of the frame, we have the girls' window. On the bottom right, we have Leopoldo's, and it's like that's such a cool angle to shoot that scene from. And it's kind of
Yeah,
like
I
shot
agree.
from
And the dark,
above too. It's like
that
so
looks right
cool.
into. Yeah, no, that is really cool. I love the shot with oh gosh, I keep it Alberto and the dog. I think the whole
Oh
like
yeah.
thing is so beautiful, and it's like just completely mundane, and of course like him playing with the dog into leading this big reveal of his sister's cheating, or as the second half of the cheating. I don't know how to describe that. The
Mhm.
object of possession in an affair. I don't know. Also, there's all these references to America throughout the film. I have like a lot where like you mentioned already the Hemingway scene. They drop a couple, not just Hemingway. But
Hmm.
Hemingway, he's Americana personified, really, right?
Yeah.
And then you have which characters? Oh, it's the actor, the one that Leopoldo wants to be like.
Ricardo. Oh no,
No, no,
Sergio.
Sergio, yeah. Um, he says Americans is talking like cigarettes. He's like American cigarettes are bad for you. These are domestic or something.
Mhm.
Stuff like that. There's always references to America. I wonder what you guys thought the purpose of that was.
I mean, I imagine at this time, America's like the superpower. It's like 1950s and whatnot. So it's kind of like showing the influence, I suppose, of America, even in the cultures of a small town in Italy.
Ah, gosh, I like to think there's more than that though. Like
I don't. I think it's just like character building, to be honest.
because I think there's this idea of like what is America, right? It's like freedom, I guess for
Yeah, maybe it represents like
corny kind of
kind of
term.
getting out of hometown. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
And
the
what the
people who
actor
want
says
to.
like
It's always the
getting out of
young who
doing bad
wants to
stuff.
leave, right? And the young are the ones who are going to be interested, at this time at least, in the American cultures and like the American rock and roll and all that stuff. So it makes sense that the people who want to leave their small town, the young, are the people who are interested in American culture.
But then it's kind of interesting how, like you said, Derek, this is kind of this. Or was it Caleb? It was Caleb said it. How this kind of this age bending thing. We don't really know their age, right? Because then it's like, yeah, this guy's 30. Are we defining how much they want to leave by their age, or are we defining their age by how much they want to leave? I guess,
Mhm.
right? By like their yearning from to get out of here.
Yeah, realistically, if you're like 50 in this, I imagine in this culture, you don't really have a lot of opportunity to leave. You already have like a family and whatnot. So this is like they're young because they don't have those responsibilities that keep them from leaving.
But my point is, if a 50-year-old, if we had like a 50-year-old character who like wanted to leave, like does that make him young or old? Because he still hasn't learned his way lessons, right? And in many ways, our most mature character is our youngest. Um, you know, being Moraldo.
Hmm.
Or
So
even further, the little boy who works at the train station. He like
yeah,
is like this epitome of like maturity. He's like the opposite of all these like 30-year-old goons, right? Because he's getting up when they're going to sleep because he's got to go to work or whatever. So.
and Moraldo's so compelled by that. I think this idea of like the people around you like define you to some extent. You
Mhm.
know, Moraldo. I don't. I mean, I don't think he's leaving to go from the city, but now he's leaving to get away from his friends, right?
Mhm.
And that's why he's so compelled by this little boy who like is just mature, and he's almost more interested in that because that's just what he actually wants from life.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, like you said, so interesting how the only person who's interested in Moraldo and actually knows Moraldo's leaving is the boy, right? It's the only one who's caring enough to ask. And he's
Yeah.
just so taken aback by that someone's even there for him when he's going.
Yeah,
I
that
think
kid's
it's
definitely an
for
interesting little side character.
sure. But I think there's a lot going on in this movie. But I wasn't like as emotionally compelled by it. But I also wasn't
Yeah.
super emotionally compelled, at least for the majority of it, by Paths of Glory, our other movie. Like that transition?
Yeah. Good job. Well done.
It becomes a lot worse when I ask, do you like that transition, right? Because it kind of defeats the purpose of a transition.
That makes it better.
I appreciate it. What did you guys think of Paths of Glory? Derek, we'll let you talk about Kirk Douglas for the next 5 minutes.
I wasn't actually going to talk about Kurt Douglas first, but I really did like this movie because this is like I said, there's three things that make me interested in a character. Either I hate him enough to care, I like the story around him enough to care, or I like him enough to care. And well, the main character is two out of three of those, and the antagonist is two out of three of those. So I thought it was pretty good. And then I was gonna start with the lieutenant and the corporal talking actually, Corporal Philip, because I thought that scene was really well done. Because like Corporal Paris just like threw a grenade and like killed the scout or and whatnot, and like Lieutenant Rajat saw that, so he like goes into Corporal's office, and he's like, "Yo, you just literally killed our guy and then ran away. What's up?" And then like I like that scene a lot because it shows like so much good acting because you can see on Rajat's face him thinking or about what he's going to say to the corporal, and he's like ruminating on like how to accuse him, and then he says it, and then the corporal you can see on his face like kind of like it darkens, and he's kind of like thinking about what to say, and then he kind of smiles like half sinister, half just like I think I won, and it's like very subtle and like well done, like the acting in that scene. I really liked it, and I think it was a good setup for the rest of the movie because it's like it's showing like the lieutenant, the lower rank, trying to get a leverage on his higher up, but the higher up is systematically more powerful than him.
Yeah, a lot of systemic comments on the system in this movie. But yeah, I think that's one interesting one to point out. Although, albeit they're a tiny bit random. But
It was random, but it was like really the first scene that's like setting up this like talking about the systemic like kind of I guess power struggle in like war, I suppose, and maybe in just like systems of hierarchy in general. Like this is like the first scene where it's like the corporal's going to win because the higher ups are going to listen to him because he's the higher ranking officer. So even if Rajat's like, "Yo, why are you throwing grenades at our dudes and then running away like a coward?" It's like, well, no one's gonna believe you.
I think this movie is speaking of like coincidences between two movies. I think these two movies are like pretty opposite in nature. Where like I Vetelloni is all basically this like everything's kind of in the middle ground. Like there's not any sort of like grand narrative overture. It's just kind of like a slice of life basically,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all very realistic and everything's kind of gray. Whereas Passive Glory is like the opposite. Like everyone is either a good guy or a bad guy, and there's a very clear like point. There's like a moral, I guess you could say.
well, I guess maybe
And they're both
not
good,
good
but
and
they're
bad, but
doing
at
like
least
opposite.
sympathetic or non-sympathetic, right?
Yeah.
I think that'd be a better.
Yeah.
Well, like
It's
I don't know. There's definitely a
in
moral scale that I think everyone falls on one side or the other of.
well in this movie that's the thing. It's like in the Eyes of War, like none of them are like bad guys. Like these aren't the bad guys. They're the
They definitely are, and they're
like
being portrayed
no
as
no no
more
no.
of the bad guys.
They're not being portrayed as bad guys. They're being portrayed as unsympathetic in relation to Kirk Douglas. And
No, they're
like,
definitely bad guys, dude.
Yeah, I would
Like
say
he literally has a scar across his whole face.
oh yeah, that dude's hilarious. That dude, okay, that dude's a character. Actually, that's too far. But definitely satirical. Is hilarious. I love that dude. But yeah,
You love that dude.
he's hilarious.
Wow, Derek.
I have like so many quotes from that dude. He's hilarious. But anyway, it's I would say this isn't like so much because what I'm about to say is like in like war, it's like not bad versus good. It's like winners versus losers. So it's like the winners are the winners and the losers are the losers. They're not bad guys and good guys. It just in this case, the winners are the bad guys or the sympathetic characters. But has to do with the systematic things that it's trying to talk about, like the upper
Right. So is the point that if the
is not
the
so much that
soldiers had won the case, that they would have been.
they would have been the
What are you saying? I'm confused.
okay. So it's what they're trying to talk about is like that the higher ups are going to win no matter what because that's how the system works. Is that like the higher ups have the power to say like, well, you're going on trial for you are going on trial, and you are going trial, and you are going for trial for court martial, even though it's just like random, or like because you know things that I don't want you to know, so you're going to die. And then they have the setup so that the court basically won't listen to Colonel Dax because it just the usual court martial that they always do to keep everyone in line and the morale up, as they say.
Well, yeah. So, but I guess what my point is
It's like
you're
they're
disputing the point that everyone is a good guy or a bad guy, but who in this movie is like somewhere in the middle?
they're not
Who is
in
in
the
the middle?
middle. It's
I
not
mean,
about
all three of the people that died aren't like
yeah.
good or
It's
bad.
not about it's not good or bad.
I guess the
It's
one guy is.
it's about sympathetic or unsympathetic. It's like saying they're bad or good is kind of like missing the point. It's like they're systematically they're just going to win the unsympathetic character.
That's completely different than what I'm talking about.
No,
What
no, no, no. I'm saying my disagreement is that there's not a bad character is like morally bad because there's not like
But yes, there are.
not
There are morally bad characters in this movie.
there's
Yes,
not
but they are more good. But there's also they are. My only issue is there are like ambiguities, right? Like I said, like the dumb guy who's crying a lot. He is neither good nor bad.
yeah.
Wait, no,
He
he's
is-
definitely good. He's a good character. Like I think he's maybe not sympathetic, but he's definitely a
Well, he's
good
the opposite.
character. Like he's a soldier who basically is getting killed for no reason, and like yeah, he's a social outcast, but like he literally doesn't do anything wrong, and he only fights for his country. So there's no way in hell that character is morally bad.
Yeah, he's also not morally good because there's nothing good that he does in the entire movie.
I mean, they're all
Except
fighting
he
for their
fights for his
country.
country.
They're all fighting for their
They're all
country.
fighting for their country. Yeah,
That's
Not
the
that,
thing.
not, but no, but they're not. Not all of the people who are like the war generals and stuff are like not fighting for their country. They're behind the chair, and in fact, the guy with the big scar on his face has a whole spiel about that.
Yeah. They're,
About how
It's-
all the people that run the war aren't the people that actually are on the front lines fighting.
no, it's what's the line? Damn it, I forgot. I didn't write that one down.
I
That one
converted
was
into
great.
soldiers.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why he says I'm a. That's let me. I remember now. He says to when the general's the major general is like stabbing him in the back. It's like just remember you stabbed a soldier in the back today. It's like he sees himself as a soldier. They all
I think it says the person stabbed in the back today was a soldier.
Well, no, that's not the scene. That's not the scene that I'm talking about. I'm talking about where the guy with the scar on his face goes to the trenches in the beginning of the movie, and he's talking with Dax
yeah.
about how like all these other generals just sit in command, but I come down here into the trenches.
Yeah, because he sees himself as a soldier. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, exactly. So
He sees himself as a soldier. He sees himself as in the front lines. But in the relation to like a war, like realistically, they're all fighting in the war. If you're if you're a general,
are you
you're
really going so far as to claim that the guy with the scar on his face isn't a bad guy? Like I'm
Oh,
so
no.
confused.
I don't think he's.
No.
I think he's a unsympathetic
Yeah.
character.
An antagonist.
Yeah, he's an
Like,
antagonist.
at the same time, like at the beginning of the movie, you're almost inclined to like him until he starts doing.
Yeah,
shitty things.
exactly.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, but oh my
But
god.
my point is that all I'm saying is that in the course of this movie, the whole point is that everyone is either good or bad, and there's no one in the middle.
I think that's going.
Or the
too
only
extreme.
people that aren't clearly on the side of good or bad are like really random
Yeah,
side characters.
But no, Major General is definitely set up to be ambiguous. He's not.
Wait, which
he's-
one's the major general?
He's a sadistic old man. But in relation to he's
Wait,
winning.
is he the guy with the scar on his face?
No, that's
No,
Brigadier
His
General.
boss. His
So
boss.
you're thinking, okay, no, but he's a bad guy too, because he shows how slimy he is at the end when Dax like
No,
he's like trying to
that's-
give
no,
Dax a promotion.
Dax is an idealist. He's saying, all right, so
No, but,
and-
no, he wasn't. I think he was.
yeah, he was
Trying
like,
to test him, right?
yeah, he was
That's the whole
test.
point.
No,
He's trying to see like if Dax actually was like this idealist, or if he was.
Yeah.
against-
Yeah, but the
Exactly.
point is like he literally says stuff along the lines of like, you know, we're all beholden to these politicians, so why should we have to take the blame? And he's easily just as evil as Scarface is. He's just not maybe as blatant, but if you like look at his actions, he's easily just as slimy, and he knows that what he's doing is wrong, but he's just doing it for his own promotion and his own, you know, career betterment.
Yeah, but
I guess
we're
my
made to-
thing is that there is. I agree. There is a good character. I don't think there's anyone who's like a super duper bad character because he's kind of right about the politicians thing, right?
Yeah.
No, but they are like I'm so baffled how you can like watch this movie and not see that guy's clearly meant to be like an evil man.
He's supposed to be just unlikable, but like I don't think if I'm for the contemplation, I don't think he's necessarily evil.
Yeah, within the
I mean, what does
bounds.
he actually do that's evil?
Yeah,
What's like what's
within the
one
bounds
thing
of the
he did
law,
that's
Because
evil?
he literally consigns 3 innocent men to death. Like,
except for
how
within the
evil? Like,
bounds of military
what is
law.
your standard for evil but that?
Except for
Like,
in the bounds of military law, he's within his rights to do so. That's the
well,
thing.
yeah, of
This
course,
is
but that's irrelevant. That's like
no,
completely on
that's
a
the
different
point of the movie. That's
morality.
literally the point of the movie. It's like,
Okay, sure, yeah. I mean, oh yeah, I agree that the point of the movie is to show that like this like hierarchy of power is completely opposite of morals, and it does that by showing that exact thing that people who are behaving within the realm of the law are completely immoral. That's how it shows it. And so, yeah, you're right that what he's doing is completely in the bounds of the law, but the whole point of the
oh,
movie
I
is that
think
he's
I see.
evil while being in the bounds of the law.
I think I was misunderstanding what you're trying to say then.
Sure. I mean, although he does it at the end, like you can argue if there was like a purpose for it or not, right? You have to justify. But yeah, I do see what you're saying. I agree enough. I think. I think the
Yeah,
really
like it
interesting.
even like especially when they're like in the little tribunal and he specifically goes like as an aside, that's a really good monologue when Dax is like popping off
Oh
at the
yeah,
trial and he's like basically calls it a mockery of justice. Like that's the point is that like all of these laws are not serving to be ethical at all. They're just serving to further people's careers.
Dax has a couple really good monologues. No, I agree with
well,
that.
Yeah.
For sure.
well, it's kind of like these people think they're in the right, like because they are in the right within the bounds that they are.
Ah!
I'm pretty sure, at least this brigadier general, he 100% believes that he should be like mowing down 100 men because they didn't charge the line.
No, he doesn't though. And if you read into his actions, you can tell that he knows he's being duplicitous. I can't remember exactly what it was, but like Dax like asks him a question, and he kind of like does this like look down. I don't know. It's like it was very noticeable to me, but he kind of like does this weird like look, like he kind of like
you're
hides his
talking.
eyes because he knows that he's doing evil things. He has enough excuses to make himself look like he has plausible deniability.
And I think
Oh yeah, because
I'd
yeah.
appreciate it, guys, if like for the rest of this we don't go with like these guys because you're kind of making it out to be like once again the bad guys versus the good guys. But I think the whole point of this movie is that there's levels to everything.
No, but it's not. That this movie is absolutely
It's
good
literally
guys
not.
versus bad guys.
No, it's not though.
Where are the
all bad
levels?
guys
Where are the
get what
levels between evil and
Okay.
good in this movie?
There's the bad guys. There was the one bad guy punishing the other bad guy.
Well, yeah, but neither of them is more bad than the other.
I know, but I'm not saying it's. My point is, it's not good guys versus bad guys. That is like literally not how the movie works.
Oh, okay, that's fair, yeah. But everyone is either a good guy or a
No,
bad
but
guy.
see, I also disagree. Okay, you keep saying everyone, but I've just named so many characters that like aren't like explicitly good. Once again, there's nothing good about the crime guy. There's really
But-
nothing good about any of
Sure,
those three guys.
Yeah,
He's an
there's nothing
innocent
good
man
about
who's
the-
being sentenced to death.
that
He's
doesn't make him
inherently
good. That doesn't make
Doesn't make him good. He's just innocent.
But don't you think that he's good by nature of being an innocent man? Doesn't
No.
that give you enough morality?
No,
Not really. I
So you
think
don't
that's
care that he
moral.
gets sentenced to death because he's not more good enough?
no, I care
No,
because
we
he's an
don't.
innocent
He's
man.
innocent, yeah,
He's innocent, but that doesn't make him a good person. A good
But
person.
everyone
I
is
think the whole point of the
inherently
movie is that
good.
we have no
Until you've
idea.
done something wrong, you're good.
No, but
No.
see, okay, then literally everyone ever is either good or bad, Caleb.
No, but the point is that he's fought for his country. He actually like didn't do anything wrong, and he was out as a soldier.
I mean, he was just murdering some other
I guess-
innocent men that were just doing
Yeah,
what they're
exactly.
told. Maybe
I
from
think
that
the
progressive.
whole point of the movie is that like you have no idea how people will actually react in these situations. We have no idea if these people are good or bad because they have been forced to make these kind of decisions. And you really don't know what kind of person you are until you have to. So they're just soldiers. There's people who are being told what to do. So we have no idea if they're good or bad.
Yeah, even the sergeant is just being told what to do.
Nah, I mean, I see what you're saying, but I fundamentally disagree. I think within the bounds of this movie, they're portrayed as good people who are worth
They're
saving.
portrayed as innocent.
like-
Okay, that's the difference. But because Dax believes they're worth saving because he believes in righteous justice, which says that anyone innocent is not necessarily good, but worth saving.
But not only that, no, they're portrayed as being good men, but even by Dax because he talks about all of their past,
Because
like,
he
military bravery.
no, he uses that to portray them as innocent. That there's no way he uses specifically Pierre's bravery because he's trying to, because the sergeant says like, um this dude's a coward. He didn't even make it past our line. It's like, well, this dude has like marked for bravery 2 times before, so obviously he's not a coward.
Yeah.
So he's not saying that he's a good man. He's just saying
Yeah,
that
exactly.
what the court is trying to do is unjust. Is what he's trying to do. He's not saying the men are good. He's saying
I know.
the court is unjust.
It's not even that like he's saying that so much, but the fact that like as an audience we're being presented with all of this positive evidence towards them and all of these positive attributes.
Not necessarily.
I think it's more like the people who are lower rank are like, maybe you can argue they're good by like default, but like I think that's the whole thing, is it's just by default, right? Where like they have no good or bad decisions to make, and that's why the big thing on by Dax rather in the end is that he doesn't want to continue moving up, right? Because the more you move up, just the more likely you are to become corrupt. And the fact that he's made it this far not being corrupt is like impressive as it is. I think maybe corrupt and not corrupt would be a better way to phrase it, Caleb.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's good. But whether or
Like,
not you
or like,
believe corruption is inherently bad, also, like if
or
you're corrupt,
more
you're
like
bad.
non-corruption is inherently good. I think maybe like the more.
Oh yeah, I guess corruption's bad, and then like not corrupt, you could still be bad. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
That's true.
Like,
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, you can make all these kind of like ethical statements, but it's in the movie. It's clear which side you're supposed to be rooting for and who you want to win.
sure, yes.
Yeah, you want that's because
Which
they're sympathetic.
which goes to a great transition, which is, wow, this movie really manipulates you, doesn't it?
Oh yeah,
Because I thought the entire time the good guys were going to win, and they set it up the entire time. Oh, here's our Deus Ex Machina. He has this evidence presented to him right at the perfect moment. Even though we should know that, like, really, evidence for one guy isn't going to do too much.
well, it
But
wasn't
then
so much a Deus Machina because we already set it up that the artillery commander was.
it's just Deus Ex Machina in terms of it was literally at the very end. It's not like
Well, yeah,
Deus
but
Ex Machina
Deus Ex
isn't necessarily
Machina.
bad.
No, Deus Ex Machina specifically means that it's not foreshadowed at all. So if you foreshadow a
Okay,
Deus Ex
sure.
Machina, it becomes not a Deus Ex.
Okay, sure. But we have this,
I see what you mean.
gift of the papers.
And
right? You guys
also
know what I'm saying.
does the men are still already dead. Dax Law still. He just making sure that
Dude, that's what I'm trying to say.
oh, I'm sorry about that. I'll let you continue.
No, by the time he gets the papers, they have not died yet. So you think, oh man, Dax is gonna come in with these papers and save the day, and everything's gonna be all right. And like, at least for me, the whole time when they're being like walked up, I'm like, okay, when's Dax coming in?
Yeah,
He's
right.
gonna come in now. Let's go, Dax. And then like she never comes in and they just die.
Yeah.
I think that's so brilliant and like works so well, like kind of manipulating this, like I guess like common trope. I liked it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's very aware of what he's doing, Kubrick, which I like at all times. That's kind of like why I brought up that one scene, because it's like he was so aware of what he wanted to like show the audience that he even made it aware that like these little people like Lieutenant Roget and Corporal Paris are like thinking about what are they like trying to manipulate one another, and like how they're like thinking about these little things like what to say, and like in this situation it's just like very little details, but he's thinking about them and what he wants to do with them, which I appreciate.
I think narratively you can kind of see this movie as like the kind of classic courtroom movie, but then just with a twist at the end that it's not the classic courtroom movie, right? It's like that genre being, what's the word I'm looking for, guys?
Deconstruction.
Yeah, like a deconstruction of that genre, exactly. Where like, you're like, oh, the lawyer's gonna come in at the end and save the day, but at the end of the day, he's not a lawyer; he's a general,
Yeah,
right? I mean, I guess he technically is also a lawyer, but you know what I mean. Or he's like
he
a
was a
lieutenant
lawyer.
also. Yeah, exactly. He's no longer a lawyer. He's a member of the army, and that's just not how things work here. I think that's so cool.
And I think it kind of like, I don't know, it shows how the army works, and I suppose it makes a judgment that like because Dax says it's unjust, and like it kind of shows like these innocent men dying for no reason, but whether or not it's kind of like how the army should work, I think isn't what's talked about. Like maybe this is just like the most efficient way. This is just like how maybe they're right. This is how they keep morale up.
But I think you can kind of assume that they're probably not right
Yeah,
because they don't seem to be right about much.
yeah,
I think like once again, this is why I didn't want to like frame it as like good versus bad, Caleb, because it's kind of just about like power. I guess it's more like about power and like what you'll do to get it, right?
Mm.
hmm
And kind of almost like the arbitrarity of power. I think like what's the name of the guy, Derek?
Which one?
We were talking about the opening when we were talking the discussion. The guy
Oh,
who
Lieutenant Roget and Corporal Paris.
which one? Lieutenant Roger's the higher up one, right? Yeah.
No,
Where Lieutenant Roger,
Paris is.
Paris is the one that shoots them or leads the.
Yeah, he's the one that shoots him.
Okay. So this is brilliant with like Paris, where like he is completely, you know, I guess like dehumanized at the face of our good character, you know, because and that's in that way he gets retribution. That's why it's not good versus evil because there's no good versus evil movie where half of the bad guys lose but the other half don't. You know, it's the
Yeah, I agree that
people,
good
only
versus
ones who
evil was
win
like
are the ones
too
who are
reductive.
actually have power. Yeah, exactly. The ones who win are the ones who win in power, and that's how it's always going to be. And like you would have guessed the winner of this movie by the beginning because it's just the guy who's the highest up.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how the army works, right? Where you have weirdly enough, all these people being sacrificed, the people making decisions on both sides are the ones that are winning, right?
Yeah.
And we like to like frame it as like, you know, Germany versus France, you know, US versus Japan, blah 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 blah. But really it's, you know, how many people are gonna be sacrificed so that, you know, these people in power can look like the good guys.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of like the men in power just see it as like the men died wonderfully today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, it the higher ups are so dehumanized, like their like privates and their colonels so much that it is how well they die is that all they care about, and whether or not they can get some higher promotion from it.
So now do you want to have your 5 minutes on Kirk Douglas, Dirk?
I kind of talked about him already, but he's a
I don't know.
I will just say he's a crazy actor. Like
He's quite good.
he was amazing. Like throughout the entire movie, like just obviously during the courtroom scene, he had like some really interesting like facial things going on as like the sergeant was talking. He didn't really say anything, but you could read a lot off his face, which I enjoyed. And then when he's talking to towards the end when the major general, and he's just like nodding his head like and then it's like, do you actually believe the things you're saying? And it's just like and then the shift on both Dax's face, Kurt Douglas, and the Brigadier General is like their faces like just like reflected one another. It's like all of a sudden like the Brigadier General was just like shocked and he was like just kind of like upset. It's like the moment was like just like a light switch going off. It was so perfect.
Yeah, that really is like a great moment. But then thing is, the guy still wins, right?
Yeah, yeah. He still
As
wins.
like happy as it's supposed to make you, like he really told him off. All he did was tell him off, and nothing else changed. Now, what you guys think of the very ending of the movie with the woman singing?
Oh man, that was
Oh,
so good. That was the
yeah.
best part of the movie.
That was really good. I wouldn't go that far, but that was really good. Cause it's like they have this captive German woman, and they make her dance and sing for them, or I guess not dance, but figuratively dance. And they just bring her up and like sing for us, and she starts singing this sentimental song, and we just get these like crying soldiers singing along.
Yeah, and she's singing in German too,
Yeah,
and it's like a traditional German song, I think.
yeah, it's a folk song of some kind. I didn't really look up which one it was.
I
It
think
was
that's
called like the Noble Hussar or something like that, or
Oh, the Faithful Hussar.
yeah, that's the one. Um, but yeah, I
I
really
think
like that part.
I think it really ties into the greater theme of like it's all about the people who are the same as you are the people who have the same amount of power as you. That's the people who you should be like sympathizing with and stuff. People you should be uniting with. you have all these soldiers, uniting with this person who really couldn't be more opposite, right? This German, innocent woman, right? She's a bad guy, but she's like not acting on the bad guy, and she's a woman, but they unite with her because at the end of the day, she has the same amount of power as them, right? Which is really none.
Yeah, totally true.
Yeah, the lyrics of this song is pretty dope. This is really sad stuff. This is like
Really?
reminds me of like Danny Boy kinda.
Reminds you of what?
Danny Boy.
Oh,
I really liked how like they kind of like end the tribunal and they don't give us the verdict, and then it's sort of like mentioned as an aside, like a couple scenes later.
Mhm.
why
Like
do
they
you like
never
that?
like there's no like big climatic moment of like and then you were found guilty. It's just like we kind of just like cut to them like basically like it's already a de facto thing.
Yeah, I guess kind of like adds like this really was like an inevitable kind of conclusion.
Yeah. What did y'all think of the camera work in this movie? Because there was like some god tier
Oh
camera
yeah,
work.
the first time I like thought about that was in when he was like the Major General was walking through the trenches, and
Yep.
it was just like following him along, and I was like, this is really good. This is a really cool angle on the trenches, and it's like the grenade goes off and they just like all kind of duck and it's like keep going.
Yeah, and like the one where it's kind of like first person from Dax's view, and all the soldiers are like parting around the camera.
Mhm.
That was really cool.
And then after
And
that,
I just
I
like,
was thinking about the scene when they're like scouting out Corporal Paris, Lieutenant Roger, and the scout. They're like going through the field and just like over the ground. The camera's like really close to the ground. I thought
Yeah.
that was really cool. What were
and I
you gonna
really
say?
like how still the anthill fight scene is, right? Where like
Mhm.
it's so chaotic, but it's like encapsulated in these like really still frames. It's not like the typical kind of like shaky camera or just like I guess it's like movement, like frantic movement. It's like all like these super still frames, and it's shot kind of similarly to how everything else is shot, right? I think it's almost showing that like the actual fighting of war is only equal in chaos to the kind of the internal struggles of those of the hierarchy of war, I guess the politics of war,
Mhm.
hmm
social politics of war, which I thought was interesting as well.
Yeah.
Also, they would do these like really interesting cuts with like having like a long or medium shot and just like randomly cut to like a super close up, which was really cool.
And then also when you mentioned it, but there's a different part when they start fighting on the anthill, when it's just like hazy and you can barely see anything, and then just like the men come out through the and it was really cool. That I thought that was like really incredible.
There are some great shots. Are we
It,
ready to vote and stuff, guys?
well, I just want
hmm
to say like this movie's like really powerful because kind of what you're saying, like there's a good guys and bad guys, and it's like but is there like it's inverse to like the power in the like system. It's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
it's very effective in doing what it's trying to do, which is show like literally that no matter what, the ones with more powers in the system will win. And that's pretty much what it is like less so much like the good versus bad, but like the more powerful and the less powerful. And it's like it's very unique. Like and this is probably like very difficult to actually do well, and Kubrick managed to do it, which is impressive.
I agree. Okay, so favorite quote.
Mm, damn, that's gonna be hard. When the Major General, oh no, I think it's the Brigadier General. He says, if it was impossible, the only proof of that would be their dead bodies lying in the trenches. To Colonel Dax saying that it was impossible to take the anthill.
I like that one. Caleb.
I liked when they were talking about they're like gonna send him to the firing squad, and he's like something along the lines of like pinch his cheek. They want him to be conscious.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Like,
I really like Moreau's like the one I keep making dumb joke about, but the soldier line, just because
oh yeah,
it really does like encapsulate like in his point of view, he is innocent, right? And it's you're making me the goat, the only completely innocent man in this whole affair. I have only one last thing to say to you, George. The man you stabbed in the back is a soldier.
Mm.
Which is until the soldier part, I really liked it. I think that's a really good quote.
Yeah.
Favorite scene?
That's tough.
I'm gonna go with the execution scene because it had me in such suspense because I really did think the entire time our
Yeah.
boy was gonna pull it out, and then nope,
Yeah.
he just died.
I was thinking about that too, but I really like the scene where Kirk Douglas is talking to the Brigadier General. I'm gonna say the first time by himself, but the second time was also great.
Caleb.
I'd say the singing scene
That's a
when
good
they're
one, too.
singing along with the German girl or humming along.
Okay. What about favorite character?
You don't mind, Colonel Dax. I almost said Colonel
Sure.
Douglas.
I'm going with Colonel Douglas. I'm going with Sandra. Just so
Yeah.
nice.
Actually, wait, I take mine back. Just because he was hilarious, Brigadier General Moreau.
I feel like he wasn't that funny. I feel like you're making him out to be way funnier than he actually was.
He said this line: "One way to maintain discipline is to shoot a man every now and then." Like how when he first said that, I literally died laughing.
Okay, now best performance.
Wait, you didn't do my favorite character.
Oh,
Skip
I
me.
thought you said yeah, so I thought you were agreeing with me.
No. I was gonna say, what's his name? He's the guy who's really into theater from Vetelloni.
Leopoldo or Ricardo?
Yeah, that's the one.
Why?
Leopoldo.
Both of
Because
you
he's such an
are-
interesting character. Like, he was such a standout, and I liked his dialogue
He
was
had
always
like
really
one
funny.
scene.
No,
he had two other scenes, but those were talking to some girl.
you know what? It's really boring if your favorite character is always one of the two protagonists of either movie. All right. So,
Okay.
listen, I thought he was cool. He added a cool dynamic. He looked different, and he spoke different than all the rest of the other characters. And he had the most interesting sideshow scene. And I really liked his quote where like he was like just talking about some random shit and like being all like using like really flowery language, and then everyone was like, "What are you talking about? You sound like you're writing a play. Like, shut up."
Oh
And it was
yeah,
funny
that's
because
actually a
like
good movie.
his quote when he was saying that would fit, like what he was saying would fit right in line with like most dialogue from movies, but
Mhm.
because this movie is so realistic, his like typical flowery dialogue like doesn't fit in with like the very realistic tone of whatever the rest of them are saying. So they're like, it's not like you're writing a play. Like, that was,
Okay, favorite or best performance?
Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, I'll probably go with that too.
yeah, duh.
Okay.
Kirk Douglas is like amazing in every movie. I've done.
I'm Spartacus.
We watched Ace in the Hole, and I almost voted for Ace in the Hole just because of his acting.
I'm Spartacus.
You
What
making
is the
me.
whole? Okay.
What were you gonna say about Ace in the Hole?
Best movie. Oh, I was just like, I'm trying to remember who went up against. And I was like, oh yeah, Mouchette.
Yeah, Mouchette.
Mouchette. Wow, what a plot twist that was when Derek didn't vote for Mouchette. Remember Caleb?
Yep.
I was
You voted for
very
Mouchette,
close
man?
to voting for
Ace in the Hole.
Ace in the Hole, but
I almost didn't get my way that week. Oh ho ho! How crazy would that have been? And I have a feeling I'm gonna get my way again this week because I feel like you two probably disagree. But we'll start with Derek. Derek, which movie did you like better?
Paths of Glory, literally the best war film I've ever seen in my life.
Whoa.
I've never seen
That's a statement and a half.
I've never seen a war film attack the structure of an army in general and war in general in the same way and as
Except
powerfully.
Kubrick's other war film does the same thing.
Except for this does it better.
Better than like
Wow.
Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket, Hurt Locker.
Except for that's not the power struggle. That's
I understand.
that's just anti-war in general.
Sure.
This is like anti-war specifically.
I
In
Full
like
Metal Jacket.
in the structure of an actual war film.
Sure. I was saying in general, you like this movie better than those?
Oh no, those I wouldn't count those as war films. So no.
How is Full Metal Jacket not a war film?
It's,
What is not worth much about
it's a war film, Derek. Oh my god.
It's an action film. Okay, it's a war film.
Okay,
We'll call it a
dude,
war
stop.
film.
It's
Yeah, it's
war
a war film.
I looked up war film, best war films, and it was the third one to come up.
Yeah, I kind of. They're about tied. I was wrong. I'll take it back. It's a war
Okay.
film, and I
Okay.
liked it as much or more.
Okay. Now, Caleb, which movie did you like better?
Oh boy, I actually honestly don't know. I'm still deciding as I speak.
You literally never agreed with me. So
No, he has. We've
We
never.
definitely have.
I've never disagreed with both of you. Is the
oh, maybe Matthew should go first.
I gonna let Caleb go first.
I'll say, in my heart, I know it's Paths of Glory.
Okay, that was mine too. That's why I don't want Caleb to go first. That's why I want Caleb to go first. I want Caleb's, guess to have a. It could at least potentially build up suspense. You know what I mean, Derek?
Yeah.
Had the potential. I think we all agree. I mean, I like Fellini. Caleb likes Fellini. Derek hates anything Italian for some
That's
reason.
untrue. I loved
Derek
The Children Are
hates
Watching Us.
Italians.
Loved it.
Mamma Mia.
I love Scorsese
telling
and
you.
Corpolo and all those
Coppola.
Capolo, Marco Capolo, Marco Capolo.
Francis Ford.
I just hate
Capolo.
I just hate Rossellini. I actually like Fellini. I like La Dolce Vita a lot. So
Oh wow! Tell that you love Fellini after you told me you've hated 2 out of the 3 of his movies that you've seen.
hey, I didn't
okay?
hate. Well, I hated this movie, but
Oh my god.
I actually no. Wait, Knights of Cabiria was the other one. I found that one as equally as boring. So probably
Would you have that one again? You had it at 28.
yeah. That movie bored me. But
You had it below Raiders of the Lost Ark and Day of Wrath.
I honestly enjoyed Raiders of the Lost Ark more than Knights of Cabiria.
Okay, well, maybe we'll do another one of those ranking lists soon. But until next time, we will finally moving on to our actual round 2. Caleb, you excited?
I am so excited. I want some tier 4 movies.
I know you do. I think we're starting to get some real good ones.
Yay.
So we won't see Kubrick for a while. He'll be the last part of this round. But for the first part of the round, we have Woody Allen's Hannah and Her Sisters versus John Ford's Stagecoach.
Ooh.
Oh, we're doing Hannah and Stagecoach first? Okay.
Yes, because I feel like it'd be kind of weird to
Yeah.
if we did it the other way, then yeah, we'd be doing all the people who
Yeah, just got out of the losers round. Yeah.
we just talked about it. So I don't want Woody Allen movie. We're like, what happened in the other one again? I don't remember. What happened? Purple was a Cairo again.
That was the one with the
I know. I don't want it to be like that though. By the time
Yeah.
we get. But yeah, so until next time, make sure to watch those 2 movies for all of our super hardcore devoted fan base, aka Caleb's mom.
Yep.
I'm Matthew Moore on behalf of my co-host Caleb Ferguson and Derek Trzynski. Have a good night and have a good time, and remember, watch more movies. Thank you.